I have this friend who grew up without a father. His father died when he was still a toddler, and he didn't know it at the time, but he told me now, retrospectively, that it really affected his emotional development growing up. I have another friend who grew up with an abusive father who told me the same thing. I have another friend who has a reading addiction. I've never heard of a reading addiction before, but this friend had a reading addiction, and it was so bad that his wife left him in the middle of the night, and he didn't even notice until the next day because he was so glued to his books. And as he told me this, he was still wearing his wedding ring because he was holding on to this hope, trying to convince himself that everything was going to be okay and that she was coming back, but it just doesn't look like she's coming back. Another friend of mine doesn't have the same worldview as his family, and so every time they're together, everybody just turns on him, and it gets really ugly really fast, and he always just leaves feeling betrayed and hurt. It's like everybody I know has wounds, and some are small and kind of petty, the kind where you can just say, you know what, it's really not that significant, you need to get over it. But others are big and deep and serious wounds. Did you know that over 40% of South African women will be raped in their lifetime? Did you know that 1 in 6 South Africans are struggling with depression right now? The thing is, we can speculate why all this happens and why people do these kinds of things, and we could try to figure it out forever. But what we really want is to be free from all of this, don't we? We want to be alive and healthy and whole. I mean, I don't want what someone else did to me to determine my entire life. Do you? Sometimes it's big things and sometimes it's small things. Maybe for you, it was just an offhanded comment from someone you don't even know. Or maybe it was somebody that you really love or loved that left you. Maybe it was a business partner who took all the money and ran. Or maybe it was a relative who abused you. Or a friend who turned on you. And you try to forget about it and put it behind you. You try not to think about it, but it just makes you think about it even more. Or maybe you think you finally put it behind you, and then you run into that person, and it all comes flooding back, worse than ever. And the wound is bigger and deeper than it was to begin with. And maybe it's a week down the line, or a month, or 10 years, and now it's become a part of you, and you just can't seem to shake it and leave it behind, and it's now a part of who you are. And eventually what happens is that revenge becomes our only hope, and we aren't free. Now, I don't know what it is that you're carrying around. I don't know how big it is or how heavy it is, but I think the question is often asked, where was God when this was happening to me? In Psalm 6 verse 7 it says, He rules forever by His power. His eyes watch the nations. In Proverbs 15 verse 3 it says, The eyes of the Lord are everywhere, keeping watch on the wicked and the good. So whatever has been done to you, whatever has been done to all of us, God saw it. It's like God was right there when it happened. In the book of Romans 12 verse 19 it says, Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God. For it is written, It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord. The writer says, just turn it over to God, let Him deal with it. Which is a nice idea, just isn't very easy to do, is it? Revenge is a very common and prominent thing in our culture and our world. We often say things like, this will teach people not to mess with me, or they'll get theirs. But if we think about what it means on a deeper spiritual level, we are essentially saying, God, you know what? I don't trust you to deal with this. I don't want to hand this over to you. because I don't know how you're going to deal with them. We're saying, God, no, not only do I not trust you, but if I get revenge, I can decide what happens to them. I can control the situation. And so taking revenge is like saying to God, I think I can do your job better than you can. I'm sure we've all got crazy stories about some of the things we've done to get revenge on someone. But have you ever really been satisfied? Have you ever really evened the score? Did your story of revenge ever end in mutual reconciliation? Revenge doesn't work. I think this is why freedom is so central to Jesus' teachings. At the heart of the message is the simple claim that God has forgiven us for our sins. He doesn't hold any of our past against us, because none of us have clean hands, do we? I mean, in some way, we've all wronged someone. And with Jesus, there's no condemnation, there's no list of wrongs, there's no judgment. The cross is God's way of saying, I don't hold your past against you. Some people have this warped view of God, that God is just sitting around waiting to punish everyone for any wrong that they do. But this isn't the picture that Jesus paints of God. Jesus tells about this God who is full of love, grace, mercy, and forgiveness, who keeps pursuing us, who keeps insisting that his way is the best possible way to live. So when I'm forgiving somebody, I'm giving them what God has given me. Have you ever heard somebody say, no, you don't understand. What this person did to me, it was so horrible. I will never forgive them. I can't forgive them for what they did. But what if God said that? Can you imagine what the world would be like if God said that? But what about the kinds of people that are going to hurt us again and again? I mean, we can forgive them, but they're going to keep hurting us over and over. There's this proverb in Proverbs 26 verse 11 that says, as a dog returns to its vomit, so fools return to their folly. Some people are destructive and toxic, and they're going to wrong us, and they're going to do it again and again and again. And the relationship can never go back to how it was. So with some people, we may need to set up some boundaries. We need to set up space between us. Some people, you might not even be able to be around them, because forgiving isn't always forgetting. For some people, forgiving is remembering. And some people are going to keep returning to their vomit. And we don't have to be there when they do. If you're being abused, emotionally, physically, verbally, you need to get yourself out. And you need to do it now. Toxic and dangerous people, they need to live with the consequences of what they've done. They have to have that opportunity, because that might be how God gets their attention. And so to forgive somebody is freedom. It sets us free from revenge. But it's not true forgiveness until you can wish that person well, until you can hope that good things happen to them. And forgiveness doesn't end there. When I forgive someone, it sets them free. It's like I'm setting myself free. If I can forgive them and let them off the hook, I'm really letting myself off the hook. As we go through life, we end up carrying things around, this baggage, all the debts that people owe us, the wrongs that have been done, all the injustices. We carry these things around with us. Have you ever held on to something really heavy for a really long time? The weight doesn't change, but it feels heavier and heavier the longer you hold on to it. becomes exhausting. God didn't create us to carry stuff around. He created us to be free. Free from anger, bitterness, and revenge. Free from feelings like you're the judge of the world. I don't know what it means for you to start letting go. Maybe it's a phone call. Maybe it's an email. Maybe it's a face-to-face conversation. Maybe it's just a moment where you realize that being vengeful towards someone is not a punishment for them, it's a punishment for you. Maybe it's a moment where you realize that you're exhausted and you're just not going to carry on to this for one more day. And this might be the first step in a long process of letting go, but we need to forgive. We need to start today. We need to do it today. Forgiving is an action. It's something that you do. So may you forgive as you've been forgiven. May you give to others what has been given to you. And may you set someone free and find out that that someone is you. And may you do it today, because we might not have tomorrow.